Hi, and welcome to another episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty, and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded, land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally, and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and rising. Today I'm talking to Bryce at Hotel South Melbourne. Lewis has had a fairly cinematic life so far, at least I think he has. Picture this: Cornwall, a small town on the coast, a young guy spurred on by the stories told by Australians on their big OE in the UK. He dreams of adventure on the other side of the world and sets off to Byron Bay for a working holiday. Young guy meets young Melburnian girl in Byron Bay for schoolies. Romance and life-changing scenes ensue. Jump forward 14 years and fresh from a role as sous chef at Supernormal, Lewis is now head chef at newly renovated Hotel South Melbourne, which was built in 1854 and has hosted the likes of ACDC and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Given the late summer Melbourne has been having, we did seem to talk about tomatoes quite a lot during this chat, so it was particularly fitting that Lewis sent out a delicious heirloom tomato dish with whipped parmesan and basil for me to try after our chat. I also had grilled shark-based scallops with preserved lemon butter, and I can tell you that with a glass of rosé, this was the perfect choice for a Friday afternoon. And the end of the movie about Lewis, well, we'll just have to wait and see. Hi Lewis, I'm Jo. How are you?
Lewis.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, good. I had a listen to a few of them.
Did you?
Yeah.
Which ones did you listen to?
I listened to Dan Briggs from...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Chin Chin. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, and Diego. I know Diego from Gimlet.
Oh, yes.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
really
good.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
I always say it's very low-fi, it's very low-tech, but I think, the content's nice.
No, I like it. Yeah, it's real. I like it. Yeah, and it's just it's the content. Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm, I think I might have said in the email, I'm genuinely interested. Like I love hearing chef stories, and but I've got a fascination. I think I've always loved hearing about talking to people who are really passionate about what they do.
Sure.
And I think honing in on one particular passion, like being a chef, has been really great.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
No, it's not just chefs. You've done operational managers and things like that. I saw. I mean,
so I had a few, mainly chefs, but sometimes some other people as well. Yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's really interesting. Did you have much of a background in hospitality, or?
Oh, look, when I was at uni, I worked at front of house.
Sure.
And I suppose where it came from was that I had, I still have, a friend in Christchurch, where I am originally from,
Sure.
who was a chef, and she'd worked in London, and then she came back to New Zealand, and just the way that she always talked about food, it just made me think people need to hear this. Like, it's really interesting, but also just some of the backstories about, I think she worked in Pearl, which may have been like Marco Pierre White's restaurant, or maybe her boss knew Marco Pierre White. It was all that kind of London scene thing, and then just how hard it was for her as a woman, head chef, to come in and earn respect, whereas she had the feeling that men can go in and they have to do something quite drastic to lose respect.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. Definitely.
And I wonder if that's changed. I don't know.
Yeah, I like to think so. But yeah, there's always some, backwards, old school. Like I feel like any industry, I suppose. But, I like to think it's sort of evolving. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, and certainly along the well-being lines as well, which is something I like to talk about. But so you've got an accent.
Yes.
Says she, who has a really strong accent. But where are you from originally?
Originally from the UK. Yeah, originally from the UK. So in southwestern Cornwall.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been here a while. I've been here 14 years now. But so grew up Cornwall, left Cornwall when I was 19.
Okay.
And came over here. The plan was never sort of stay forever, just sort of, the sort of working holiday thing, and met my partner, and you know how it goes. Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emma.
No, thank you. Beautiful.
Amazing.
Thanks.
So came over 2009, and just met my partner, ended up staying. Really, that's kind of it.
So had you already started your chef training?
Yeah. So growing. Yeah, I mean, so I did all my training back in the UK, and I know it wasn't really the plan. Wasn't ever really to sort of. Yeah, I didn't really see a career in food. It was more just kind of it felt the right thing to do. At Cornwall, I don't know if you know, like Rick Stein and sort of that sort of food.
Absolutely.
Scene. Yeah. So down there, it's it's all sort of fresh local seafood and things like that. So it was it kind of made sense to sort of jump into as a sort of after school job. As sort of washing dishes as a 14-year-old and slowly work your way up to start washing dishes and okay, now you can make the mashed potato today. Okay, cool. You can on the pans, you can do a bit of service, and it sort of evolved from there. So kind of gave me a bit of flexibility at that age,
And I guess it's good to travel with as well.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So flexibility is sort of when I was young, is sort of what I wanted, and that was sort of the plan, really.
And did you come straight to Melbourne?
Went to Byron Bay. Yeah. So So I worked with some Australians in St Ives back home, like in Cornwall, and that was it. Yeah. So I said, finishing school, finishing your training in that, why don't you come into Byron Bay and do a working holiday thing and enjoy that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's it's great. As a 19-year-old in Byron and living.
Was it a culture shock?
Yes and no. I mean, Byron had a lot of similarities in terms of like Cornwall, a sort of seaside town.
True.
And I came on my own, but I was quite lucky. I had really people that I'd worked with, people that I knew, really friendly sort of people. So you quite quickly make friends and connections and things like that. So it was it was a little bit, I suppose. But I think you don't really fear much when you're 19. You just kind of, go with the flow and you don't think of the bigger picture sometimes, I suppose. That's what I thought of it. Yeah.
And how long did you spend in Byron?
I was in Byron I arrived in October, so 3 months in Byron, and then I met my partner during that time, then a bit of time in Sydney, and then ended up coming down. She was from Melbourne. She was there holiday. She was on her schoolies, like end of school. It was pretty fun. So so she was visiting, and
wow,
yeah.
And you're still together?
Correct. Engaged last year.
Oh,
so
congratulations!
Thank you.
Well, that's a good story.
Yeah,
meeting someone on the schoolies. Wow.
It's nice. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So.
Okay, so then you came here.
Correct. Yeah.
And obviously you were keeping up with hospitality because it was handy at the time. But
absolutely.
What then made you stay, given that you didn't think it was going to be a career?
I think it was the career. Didn't see. I think that I was always thinking I wanted to go back and study and do something else. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I think you come to Melbourne and being from a small town, which I know probably population 2,000 people or so, small. You come to Melbourne and the food scene's phenomenal, and there's something really cool always happening. I think it was sort of, it was taken in by all the food scene basically. You know what I mean? And being in Cornwall, it was, everyone was kind of similar. Everyone was sort of doing similar food. You know what I mean? It was all, centred around seafood, and so now the ocean and fresh seafood. But there's so much diversity in Melbourne. It's just exciting for like a young chef. So I was sort of taken by the food scene here quite quickly. You know what I mean? And that's when I sort of made decision. Obviously my partner being really supportive. I want to stay here. Let's do this and give this a run. So that's sort of what the go was.
Amazing. And so I know you were at Supernormal, but
correct.
Where did you start here?
I started St Kilda, so I started a restaurant called Rococo's. So spent 5 years there. Italian. St Kilda, sort of landed in there, so I was staying in sort of Alma Road, so close by. Just a super busy venue is one of those things you sort of put my resume here, and I mean the tasty food.
You're drawn to the seaside, obviously.
Yes, correct. St Kilda. Of course. So it sort of just made a lot of sense without thinking too much about a career, and that's what so I sort of like, I'll give this place, and stay there, and the food, super super busy, relentless venue, and it was really fun. You know what I mean? Really hard working, and was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And, like, stayed 5 years, you know, and like I said, still have that flexibility, you know, working in a kitchen. You know, I can travel with my partner. You know, we were both quite young, so, you know, did a big stint in the US. You know, go for a few months, or, you know, go to Europe for a few months as well. Like, we just sort of flexibility is sort of what I was wanting.
Oh, that's
you know
good.
I mean? Sort of early 20s,
so you did those things?
Yeah, I was
wow.
able to travel. Yeah.
And were they foodie travels? Did you work over there, or just
no work? No. I mean, it's sort of, you know, 3 months we did.
Ate food though.
Correct. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's you know, we sort of have our, you know, my partner would sort of think of activities, and I'll think of the food scene.
Yeah.
Like, let's check out this place, let's try this, you know what I mean? So going to LA, or spending, you know, we spent a month in New York, which is awesome, like, we loved, and really, really cool city. And
what were some memorable meals?
I mean, I remember, I know it's from the chef's table, I remember, like, Ivan Ramen, I don't know the ramen. You know, we were staying in the East Village, and yeah, I remember we landed, we'd been in Mexico, and then we just flew up and, you know, landed, and, you know, been traveling a long time, and it was kind of just like, not something really stumbled on, I was aware of it, you know, just through, you know, something on Netflix that I liked. I was like, we were actually staying in the apartments above, whereas venue was like in the East Village.
Wow.
So yeah, it was unreal, just simple, just, you know, ramen, and super tasty, and, you know, just things like that. You know, you go to Koreatown over there, and just everything's so yum, and yeah, you can't really go wrong. You know,
yeah.
It's, you know, a bit like Melbourne sort of food. Everything's so diverse, there's something different, and everything's tasty. You know,
I feel like Mexico would have been really good too.
Yeah, Mexico was great. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you went to Europe as well.
Yes.
But had you already travelled a bit in Europe before you?
Not so much. I mean, yeah, leaving at 19, like, I didn't really leave. I didn't really sort of holiday much as a youngster. Like, it was more, you know, I think I went to France, like, with a school trip, and like something like that. Like, you know, but yeah, I didn't sort of, you know, I finished school at 16, and then, you know, did more training, things like that. So it was quite a big step. I want to come to Australia, like, get away from, you know, small town and sort of see the big world. And yeah, that was sort of the idea, but not much of a travel for Europe, really, no.
So I guess it's good then going once you've got your career underway as well, because then you're probably really looking out for certain things in the food as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are there any things that you've taken from various travels that you use now, or that you have used?
Not really overseas. I mean, it's more, you know, I think it's sort of the Melbourne food scene. It's more sort of, that's where I sort of take more inspiration from. You know, it's just so diverse, and yeah, I think it's sort of tough. You know, when you're sort of travelling as well, you're not looking for, you know, fine dining venues. You're looking
that's
for,
right.
You're sort of looking, I know what's sort of within budget, cheap eats type thing. That's something interesting, something cool. I definitely feel it's quite easy to relate to sort of the Melbourne food and sort of get my head around that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nothing sort of sticks out. Nothing sort of sticks out majorly. Yeah.
I feel like the markets in Europe are really amazing. And I mean, I know they are here as well, but I do feel as though chefs have access to much better product than the ordinary people do. I think, you know, your suppliers, and, you know, I know I was speaking to someone the other day about having a relationship with a farm, and I think, you know, that's... I envy that, because I do think I lived in the south of France for a year, and the markets there were just amazing, and just the produce was incredible. You know, tomatoes that really tasted like tomatoes.
Oh God, yeah.
And I feel like it's very hard for an ordinary person to buy tomatoes, but I feel like that perhaps chefs, you do have access to heirloom and amazing ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's almost come sort of second nature. Sort of. Yeah, I see. In their produce, you know, talk about tomatoes that have never been in the fridge before. You know, they've been picked, they've been packaged and sent to the venue, and that's, you know, and, you know, talk when we're at Supernormal, we talk about, you know, this was in the ground yesterday. You know, this was picked last night, driven from, you know, 2 hours away, and, you know, brought here, which is really inspiring, really, really cool. And, you know, you don't want to do much to food like that. You just want to get it on the plate as quick as possible. You know what I mean? It's awesome. But I think it's probably changing for the better. I think you know, trying to get more access to, I suppose, people that are interested in food, not just chefs. You know what I mean? You know, it's I feel like COVID sort of brought a bit of that. You know what I mean? There's sort of the the sort of organic food markets. They'd sort of do those farm packs or things like, you know, farm shops. Yeah. So I think it's people, care about, I think, their produce, I think a lot more than they did in the past, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so, when was your first head chef role?
I don't know, I suppose it was really... with this group, I was working for Supernormal Trader House Group for 5 years. So I started as a commis chef and went my way up to sous chef.
Wow.
In terms of day-to-day running, you sort of call it a classic head chef, I suppose. Sort of the day-to-day involvement of the kitchen, leadership, running services, things like that. So they always sort of describe anything junior sous up as a head chef any other venue, but sort of this, I suppose this is sort of my first real title head chef role, I think. Within this group.
And it's interesting you mentioned leadership. Did that come naturally to you, leading a team?
Yes and no. I mean, as a child, I do like team sports and things like that, and you captain things like that, because I suppose I'm just quite loud and quite passionate. I think sometimes so sort of it's quite easy to give it to the loudest person or things like that. It's quite funny, but I think leadership means a lot of different things, and I think the key is that just see what sort of motivates people, and not communicating with different people in different ways. I think early in my career, I know, listen to what I say. People, you got to be not aggressive, not docile, just assertive. You know what I mean? And that to an extent works. For some people, react in a different way to that. Some people need this. Some people need an arm around the shoulder. I think it's that's the way I sort of think of leadership. You know what I mean? I think of the best leaders I've had. It's definitely personality. Definitely personality that I sort of relate to more. And then obviously the skill set and things like that, how talented they are as a cook and things like that really comes into it. But I think it's always a work in progress. I think you can always sort of improve, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is new.
Yes, correct.
How long has it been open?
We opened in middle of December last year. Yeah. So just over 3 months.
Pretty fresh. I was going to say it's new, but it is old. It's 169 years old.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, 1854.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been for a few revamps, yes.
Yeah, it has, but it's lovely, isn't it? Like
really a lot of really cool spaces, and like the 2 floors, and so a lot of good opportunities for functions and things like that, which we're...
And so that's good too, because I was going to say the food at Supernormal's quite elevated and exciting, and you have the possibility of doing that here as well, because you've got more pub food, and then there's a different level. What's that?
So it's sort of I don't need to sort of, dumb it down, but it's essentially sort of focus on the pub classic, but you sort of have to have any, you've got to have a solid parma, you've got to have a solid, burger and chips, you've got to have solid fish and chips, you know what I mean? Just the staples that you'd expect from any sort of pub, you know what I mean? There's no reason that they can just, be a bog standard. You can use, beautiful free-range chicken, you can use the best possible produce you can to put this on the plate, which we're definitely focusing on. Alongside that, sort of, the public bar menu, we also have elevated, dishes, things that sort of, inspired, buffalo mozzarella dishes and raw dishes. So still trying to keep it approachable. I think that's really, really key to what we're trying to do here in terms of customers. It needs to be approachable. It needs to be relatable. You know what I mean? If you can't put something on the menu, I haven't heard of this, I don't know what this is, I find it won't sell, to be honest. I suppose it's somewhat of re-education, I suppose, not in a sort of arrogant way, but just sort of trying to try this and just give it a try. You're curious about this, give it a try, see what you think, and you know what I mean. That's the sort of the goal here. We're trying to sort of
Would that be a seasonal menu as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So changing things around.
And what's happening with the season? Are you still on because I feel like this late summer the tomatoes are still going.
Correct.
Now. Someone just told me the other night that they can't move on to the autumn menu yet because there's still all this produce that
exactly. I mean, tomatoes are a real staple. We have them. I think they came in really late this year. It's sort of December before the Victorian tomatoes came in, but they're still coming. I've got the stuff came in today. It was beautiful. Beautiful, really. Blue vibrant, and it's still hot. You know what I mean? So you sort of think like what I'd like to be eating. On a day like today. You know what I mean? You have some ideas.
What would you like to be eating?
I mean...
What on the menu? What's
seafood
your favourite?
pasta. I really love the seafood pastas. Fresh spattercraft from Queensland, diamond shell clams from New Zealand. Just, like oil-based sort of pasta. Just creamy, super fresh. Super fresh. Fresh tomatoes, really like the grain salad we're doing at the moment with heirloom carrots, maple roasted, tahini yogurt, so nice and vegan, vegan friendly, watermelon radish, just some colour, some texture, so things like just light and fresh dishes, like lots of share style, so thinking sort of to that sort of Supernormal, everything sort of shared, or we don't sort of do the half portion type thing, but if you want to have 3 or 4 dishes, you sort of do that and taste, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you were saying before that you are really inspired by Melbourne and the food scene here. Are there what else do you do for, obviously this is what's available seasonally, but do you have cookbooks or do you look online? What are the other sources of inspiration?
Yeah, I suppose, it's all, you just sort of take from everywhere, really. There's not sort of, it's definitely peers, I think, like Melbourne, not just Melbourne, Sydney, Australia-wide, Sydney's doing some really cool things. We went on holiday, it's funny when you go on holiday, you seem to dine out a bit more, you know what I mean? It's just sort of natural, so me and my partner up there, late last year, you go to wine bars to see what they're doing, and it's, really interesting. It's just like cooking for family and things like that, to be honest. I really enjoy, Easter and Christmas, you know what I mean? Coming over here on my own, meeting my partner, she has a massive family, you know what I mean? Grandparents still around, nieces, nephews, Christmas is 20, 25 of us, and it's inspiring to sort of, I think, just cooking for the family, and just doing what I want to, just trusting, the menu and things like that. You're like, so we'll do, Easter's coming around this year, we'll do something, and I think that's inspiring, just, getting people together, cooking, and it just makes me sort of think, I can try this, and something that might not be, right in that sort of setting, we can evolve and put something on the menu, you know what I mean? And that's sort of inspiration, keeps me sort of humble and cooking, and it's funny, my partner's my biggest critic, so it's always funny. It's always to run things by her. What about if we try this, or do you want to have this for Easter this year? Oh no, I don't like that protein, she's pretty fun.
Well, it keeps you on the straight and narrow, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So you might not know the answer to this because you're in the kitchen, but who are there locals here, or is it a bit more touristy? Who's coming?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. There's definitely a sort of corporate, there's so much office space around. Yeah. So in terms of Monday to Friday trade's great. Particularly lunch, so in and out. But sort of people, corporate people, and then people, in and out coming down from Sydney for the week. They're staying in a hotel and things like that, which I've been told. But it's sort of to be honest, the weekend trade we're trying to push, events and things like that. But we've got a couple birthdays and things happening this weekend, which is great because we've got the space and it's good in the function menus and stuff. But it's more clientele based, but there's so many locals which sort of promote and try to grow, and community based venue is what we want to be. There's so many sort of great pubs around here, so I just want to sort of add to that and be as good as we can be.
Beautiful. And just for a final question, given that you have had a few years in the game, what would your advice be to someone, a young person who was thinking about becoming a chef?
I would say, if you're thinking of becoming, you're just starting out of your career, I'd think really sort of have a think what sort of chef you want to be, have a think. There's a lot of moving parts to hospitality, there's a lot of moving parts to the industry. I think it's really important to sort of take the bigger picture, even as a young person. Like I said before, the best chefs I work with, the personalities, the most important thing, the attitude, and they may not be the best chef, but they have well-rounded skill sets in the kitchen, in terms of leadership, in terms of communication, and there's so many operational sides to a restaurant that people from outside the industry might be aware of, the actual product that ends up the plate, you know what I mean? I think just try and take in as much as you can from everyone around you, not just your mentors, from your line cooks, from everyone has a different food experience, and there's so much to learn, and it's such a dynamic industry. There's always something evolving, there's something changing. It's and that's sort of the best advice I'd give for someone thinking about or starting out in their career, you know what I mean? And just take on as much as you can, you know what I mean? Like, that's the sort of best thing I would say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Lewis. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Lewis Bryce at Hotel South Melbourne. You can check out all the South Melbourne loveliness on Instagram at Hotel South Melbourne, all one word. And if you liked what you heard and want to hear about some other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. You can read the chat at www.conversationwithachef.com, and I would absolutely love it if you told a friend about my chats, and you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Once again, thanks for listening and have a great day.